All right. For Mustang News, I'm Francisco Martinez here with Frank Crowe. Frank, 50 years in the making. How does it feel like to be back in San Luis Obispo?
Well, it's wonderful to be here. And of course, this studio I've never seen before. We were down in 201, cramped in a little bitty room with our little bitty mixer and two turntables. So this is pretty fantastic. I think this is really something.
What would you say has been, besides going from an itty bitty room to a huge studio like this, what would you say has been the biggest change in KCPR?
The fact that wires disappear. You guys are all, you're all on computerized. We were all tape. You're sitting there recording and you're splicing tape together and you're plugging wires and connectors and stuff. And of course, you guys don't do that anymore. Um, you've got a decent transmitter up on the mountain instead of 1.5 watts over here on KVC Hill. You can cover a bigger area, and of course, you guys are a whole lot more professional than we ever were. We were in the summer of '68 before the station actually got officially on the air, and it was more of a club event or something. There were no records, no program director, no hardly any instructions other than how to operate the board and the turntable, and how to cue a record, and how to splice tape, which, of course, have you ever spliced a tape?
I don't even think I've ever seen a tape. I have actually, but
Yeah. Uh, Unfortunately, I don't think any of our tapes, or hardly any of our tapes, ever survived because you always erased them and re-recorded over them because you only had so much tape in the house. Um, so a lot of our stuff doesn't exist anymore, but we got it started, and in September 30th, they went on the air officially. Um, then I got busy and I graduated that quarter, so I kind of left it behind because during the summer I had time during the fall quarter and getting ready to graduate. I didn't have time to come back to KCPR, so I did one show after the official start, and then I faded away, and history.
well, you still had a lot of impact being one of the first people to air on KCPR with your one show. What
No,
did
no,
you
no. I was on during the summer. It
on
was only one
official
official
show? My apologies. I want to get that clear. But what did you play? What did you play on your DJ sets?
Okay. There was no record library, of course. And during the summer, well, during the fall quarter, you have maybe 12,000 students. During the summer, we had, I don't know, 500 or 1,000 students, whatever is here during the summer. You had to go borrow records. So any record you had, you brought, or you'd go friends or whatever. So we'd say, "Oh my gosh, I need some records." And I remember borrowing two. Well, I had a Tijuana Brass, and I borrowed a Tijuana Brass album. So that evening, Tijuana Brass was featured on the radio show, and that was how you did it.
Oh, Herb Albert.
So yeah, and that's what we did from about 6 to midnight, roughly. Most nights of the week. During the summer, we were on a pretty good schedule, and so we'd be on in the evenings. And then as the quarter started, we were still on, and I don't remember when they extended more into the daylight hours, but it was evening. And then when everybody started showing up, and they started getting organized. Of course, then you had enough people come in, DJs, and to do all day. And I think they still went just day and evening. They weren't on overnight or anything. So, but it was a great experience. We're glad we got it going. We got the bugs worked out of the station so that when the fall quarter people came in, they had a station, as it was, as little as it was.
And now, 50 years later, what do you expect for KCPR in the future?
Well, that's a good question. The technology I see today from 50 years ago is, of course, just generations above what we were doing. And who knows? I expect to see come back in years and see additional stuff here that I go, whoa, how does this work? So I worked a little bit in the broadcast industry, but I've got away from that years and years and years ago. So to see this stuff is kind of impressive. It's really cool. I'm glad you guys are learning all this, and you can step out into the real world. And hell, you got the latest stuff here, so this is great. I'm glad to hear it.
Well, Frank, thank you for laying the foundation to make this station what it is today.
Well, thank you for having me in and taking a look at all this. I'm enjoying the tour, and it's great. So we're up for the weekend.
Frank, would you care to sign off?
With an old one, this is not a legal station ID. But in the old days when we were running a 1.5 watts, one of my station IDs was with 1,500 milliwatts of power. This is KCPR, covering all of Cal Poly. Almost.
For Mustang News, I'm Francisco Martinez.